and obviously we need a lot more of it. I think there are also a lot of things that could be done today with the funding that we have, that we are not making good enough use of the funds that we have. And a lot of times. Well, it's okay to applaud. I agree with that. Yeah. A lot of times I go around and I visit schools or I visit universities and I find a pocket of gold, is what I call them. Like the pirate game here.
Yes. Oh,
and that pirate game is wonderful.
Yeah. That's an MSU's clapping, right? Yeah, Barbara did a great job as a pirate. I didn't know she was a pirate.
And I talked to them, they're willing to share it with California. Now,
That's
what
fabulous.
is that worth to our students? A lot.
Right. just apply.
Send money your way.
We'll bring $1 billion with us. Sure, it's called stimulus. Yeah.
So a lot of times I hear, I'm sorry, I can't do X because I don't have the money or whatever. That's an excuse. And there are ways around a lot of roadblocks by getting people, especially people from K-12 and higher ed, to work together, because sometimes a funding formula is allowed for a purpose. In higher ed, it's not allowed for K-12, and when they work together, it can happen. So I think we have to get a lot more creative with what we have while we're fighting for additional dollars.
And you know, I think this is important business, and from a school dude perspective, you probably attest to that, and I'd like to know a little bit from your experience, but you know, we have to cut back as well, and necessity is the mother of invention. Yes. And I just found, even at Intel, when we do things, we've done it for many years, and you cut funding, and then you suddenly say, okay, well, what do we need to do? Now you start prioritizing again, right? Now you start having debate again, and then suddenly you're doing the things differently, and you still have the same impact.
Well,
and
it's interesting that you say something like that. In the fall, last fall, when the economic indicators started going down.
Well, they didn't go down like this. They went like this.
Yeah, it was clear. You know, we gathered our team together.
That's the economy. No, just the economy. Do you want to pick the economy up?
I think
oh, thank you. There you go.
Economy's never down.
Yeah.
For long. We gathered our team together and we said, look, we're going to go into austere cash preservation. We're going to shut down our development, which is, you know, basically, you know, we're putting off new products for, you know, maybe a year or so. But we're going to preserve you know, everybody that's on our staff. We do not want to, we want to try to keep everybody on the team. And so we did. And we focused on our core business. We really kind of entrenched. And this last quarter, in the middle of all of this bad stuff, we had the best quarter we've ever had. And we're all trying to figure out, you know, what happened. A lot of it was just because everybody was just working harder, working smarter, thinking about the basics. And now we're able to go back. You know, we're only going to lose about 6 months of our development cycle, but we're going to put our development stuff back on because we have a little more confidence than we had.
What I heard from you too is it's really you're putting people first. And I think in education the same thing. We need to put students first, and teachers first, and administrators first, right?
One of our mottos is that we try to take that facility director. You know, this is, you know, not we're not talking about STEM, but we're talking about the guy or the woman who's in charge of keeping the facilities clean and in good repair, and we try to take them and make them look good. You know, and so every day that we have a good result for a facility director is a day that we feel as a company successful. So we are trying to put people first.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about policy, I've been doing government affairs now for a couple of years, and that's new for me because I'm an engineer. But now I'm a techno-dud, and now I'm a government affairs guy. So, but one of the things I've really discovered, oh gosh, and I'm so glad New Mexico only has 30 days and 60 days and 30 days and 60 days, and sometimes a special session. We might have one this year, but it's kind of nice. My California counterparts are like, I'm ready to go home, and it keeps going and going, right? And it's but it's a big state, and on its own, I think you would be what, the 8th largest country, so to speak, if we were on our own. So it's a huge economy. But I'm thinking about, you know, this notion of a civil rights issue. Education is a civil rights issue. Education, I heard, a national security issue, right? Not because our students are carrying weapons around, that's a different issue. But I think the national security issue, the civil rights issue, what are some policies that you believe would make sense to really promote this notion of more access? And I mean, and policy doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes years. Stephanie?
I'm not sure if you've looked at these numbers, but if you look at the diversity within schools. In a lot of states, we're seeing resegregation.
Resegregation, can you explain that?
Where schools are predominantly made up of one race.
I'll be darned.
And so we're seeing that happen in the demographics. And one of the things we know about cooperative learning is that it enables people to gain an appreciation of different points of view and different ideas that people have. And so one of the powers of technology is really its ability to promote collaboration and to promote that across distances of maybe people who aren't in your backyard, to gain new appreciations, new understandings. So I think as we begin to really focus on what's happening in this issue, you'll see people looking to technologies for solutions.
Right, because you know, one thing that a lot of the leaders in technology talk about is technology is an equalizer, right? The internet is really an equalizer, and but yet it's on the surface it is. But if you don't have access to the internet, so what? Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's where School Dude comes in again.
No.
I love that name, School Dude. It's just fabulous. Angela, what about what are some of the plans for NGA, by the way, for this year?
So NGA is focusing on many things, but right now we're really working on Common Core standards. We're looking at math and English language arts, and we had 41 states actually represented last week in Chicago with governors and chiefs that came together, and they are signing on to a process of getting rid of these 50 different standards across 50 different states for students. And as you can imagine, this is a contentious issue, but they're starting with those core subjects, mathematics, English language arts. Then we'll open up the can of worms that is science, and we'll start talking about that. And we're really going to look at the states who have done a good job in setting standards and the states that want to become involved, so that when students move from state to state, they have the same quality of education, so that we know how to support our teachers better. And there's a whole slew of policies, including international benchmarking, looking at career and technical education more seriously, really embedding that rigorous STEM content into those pathways, aligning those pathways to what industry needs now, today, and also giving them the skills so that they can respond to what industry needs tomorrow, because we don't really know what that might be. So.
I'll make a comment on the industry thing. Industry evolves the same way, and you know, the difficult thing is we might say today we need this, tomorrow we need that, but you know what? After tomorrow we need something completely different. So, I mean, really, we need to start thinking about a flexible framework where things kind of evolve, and I think I've heard a lot about student-driven learning, right, versus teaching. Let the students kind of explore, and frankly, they're going to dictate to a certain extent what those jobs are going to be as well. It's not like a Microsoft, an Intel, a Cisco, you know, all the great companies represented know exactly what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. So while we have those, we should have those discussions on a quarterly basis. We should almost have our own Congress, right, to have those discussions so that we can start doing policy